So I've had a few emails asking me to talk about addictions, and there's a chapter in my new book on addictions. And what I say is that every human being is an addict. We're all addicted to an extent. We're addicted to ourselves. That's the core of every addiction. The core of every. In a sense, there's only one addiction. And it expresses itself in many ways, but there is only one addiction, which is the addiction to me, the addiction to myself, the addiction to the story of myself, the addiction to holding up that story of myself and defending it and improving it and perfecting it and always becoming something. So the thing is, we're basically looking for something that we can never find, and that's the tragedy of addiction is this search for something that we can never ever find. What we're looking for, it always just escapes our grasp. And even when we get what we want as human beings, even when we finally get what we want, we get the new car, the new job, the money, the fame, the success. It satisfies for a while, but then it wants more. It wants the next thing. It wants the bigger thing, bigger, faster, better. And this plays out in the so-called material world, but also in the spiritual world. It's the same mechanism. We want more enlightenment. We want the higher level of consciousness. We have the ultimate enlightenment. We want the ultimate. When does it end? We get to the 27th astral level of consciousness, whatever. We want the 28th level. Where does it end? It's the same mind, you see. It's trying to complete itself in time, and it never will. And that's the tragedy from one perspective. That's the tragedy of the seeker. We're searching for something we can never ever find in time, but we're looking for it in time. We're looking for it through states and experiences and substances and everything outside of ourselves. We're searching for ourselves, but we're looking for ourselves outside of ourselves. What we're truly looking for, what we long for on the deepest level, is this moment. This moment is our deepest longing, and yet we're looking for it outside of this moment. So you can see how this mechanism, it's almost designed to fail. It's almost designed to exhaust you and frustrate you and leave you disillusioned. Same with alcohol, with cigarettes, with chocolate. Human beings, we can be addicted to anything. Internet, we can be addicted to the internet, to checking our emails. We can be addicted to success. We can be addicted to our work. We can be workaholics. It's like anything to distract from the present moment, anything to distract from present pain, present discomfort, present dissatisfaction. That's really where addiction begins, is this sense of something's incomplete. Something right here and right now is incomplete. There's a sense of lack. There's a sense of something's missing. That's where the whole thing begins. Probably when we're very young, this sense something's missing. What's missing? And then our lives become a search for this thing that's missing. What's missing? Substance, a person. What's missing? An experience. What's missing? What's missing from this moment? That's where the whole thing begins, is with a sense of lack. A sense of lack. And it's interesting because the word lack and the word want actually are from the same root. The word lack was the old word for want. So I lack means I want means I lack. So out of this primal sense of lack, this primal sense of separation, we begin to seek, what do I lack? I lack money, I lack success, I lack fame, I lack love, I lack enlightenment. So it becomes a search for fullness, for wholeness. We're trying to fill up the sense of emptiness, but we all know this, even when we finally get what we want, whether it's the money or the fame, or it's the spiritual experience. It's wonderful. We enjoy it. It's wonderful. It brings pleasure. But it's impermanent. It doesn't last. It can't satisfy the seeking mechanism. The seeking mechanism cannot bring itself to completion. Because even when we get what we want, it satisfies for a while, but then the seeking mechanism starts up again, and we want more. We want the next thing. Or we fear losing what we have. So either we want more, or we fear the loss of what we have. So that's why there's always so many people in this world, suffer from this basic anxiety when they think about the future. Because on some level, we know that, as the Buddhists have always been teaching us, everything is impermanent. We can lose what we have. So this seeking mechanism, it can't come to completion. You can't complete yourself in time. You can't complete yourself through the story of your life. And that's why life, for many people, becomes so stressful and so dissatisfying, and they become so disillusioned and so exhausted, because no matter how much they achieve, no matter how much they work and how much they struggle and they strive, and of course they have all kinds of experiences and they lots of pleasure, but at some point you start to realize this isn't really truly providing me with what I've always longed for. What is it that I always long for? What is it that I always long for? What will truly fill up this sense of lack permanently? So yeah, maybe at some point you become disillusioned with the whole thing. I've met many people who they've become disillusioned with all the promises of the world, and the so-called material promises that money was going to make you happy, or success was going to make you happy, or fame was going to make you happy, or power was going to make you happy, or even your relationships were going to make you happy, your partner was going to make you happy. And then the spiritual stuff, that your spiritual path was going to make you happy, your guru was going to make you happy, a person, an experience, a substance, something outside of yourself was going to make you happy. And you start to realize this, you start to become disillusioned with these promises, with all the promises of the world, with all the promises. So this can actually be a very interesting time for people, to become disillusioned. It's very beautiful. Disillusioned. It can be very painful, but it can be very beautiful. Disillusioned. The loss of illusions are starting to fall away. The illusion, what's the basic illusion? That anything outside of yourself can bring you home. That anything outside of yourself can provide you with wholeness. That anything outside of yourself contains wholeness. So in a way, the seeker always has a guru. The seeker always sees wholeness outside of themselves. The seeker's question is always, who or what can provide me with wholeness? So whether we think it's a spiritual guru who's going to make me whole, they're going to save me, they're going to complete me, or it's a cigarette. The cigarette in this moment, the cigarette will complete me. The cigarette will make me whole. The cigarette will take away the pain of being human. So whether we seek in these big ways or in small ways, it's the same mechanism. What outside of myself can bring me home? So it's almost perfectly designed to fail, this seeking mechanism, because it's based on a faulty assumption and a misidentification that who you are in this moment is separate from life itself, that you are someone separate from this vastness that we call the moment, that you are someone separate from the vast ocean of consciousness, that you are a separate wave in the ocean. So as the separate wave, you're always looking for home. As the separate wave, you're always looking for the ocean. You're looking for the ocean in time, through experiences and states and substances and people. It's like, when am I going to find it? That's the ocean's cry is, when, Father, why have you forsaken me? Mother, why have you forsaken me? When am I going to find this ocean? And of course, it always was that. It always was what it was looking for. They just couldn't see it. So no amount of money, no amount of sex or fame, no number of cigarettes, drugs, alcohol, success, power, nothing. All the experiences it has. Experiences are beautiful, and we can have all kinds of experiences. That's the adventure of life. But when you're looking to these things, these experiences, states, substances, entities for your salvation, none of these things are going to bring you closer to the ocean. As long as you're looking for the ocean, you are the ocean looking away from the ocean, trying to find the ocean. That's why it's so dissatisfying, and we can become so disillusioned. Disillusioned basically that we're not the ocean. So if we can actually, face that, turn towards our disillusionment, start to realize on the deepest level that nothing outside of myself is going to make me whole. Why? Because what I am is already whole in this present experience. So the cigarette can't provide what it promised. The alcohol can't provide what it promised. The guru can't provide what it promised. And this is waking up. This is the beginning of really waking up to who you really are. The end of looking outside of yourself. The end of looking away. And this is a turning to face what's here. Turning to face what's here. And what you are is this space, this holding space for thoughts as they arise and dissolve, sensations as they arise and dissolve, feelings as they arise and dissolve, sounds as they arise and dissolve. And what you are doesn't arise and dissolve. What you are is ever present. It's always been present. So that the whole thing, your whole life, is an invitation to remember, not to become something else, but to remember what is already the case. To remember that your present experience, exactly as it is, these thoughts, these sensations, these feelings, are already an expression of what you long for on the deepest level. This moment it's already what you long for. It doesn't match your image of what that was supposed to look like, of course. But how were you to know, as the separate entity? How were you to know? This is not in your control. This is the vastness of the ocean, which you're inseparable from. So even if what's appearing in this moment is a sense of discomfort or pain or frustration or anger or fear, and the temptation is to run away, the temptation is to reach out for the cigarette, reach out for the experience, reach out for the next thing, reach out for the money, the chocolate, reach out for the guru, reach out for mummy and daddy. That's where it all begins. We reach out. Something outside of myself can make this better. And of course, you can go off and you have all kinds of experiences. You can experience great pleasure, of course. But at some point, there's this longing for the truth of who you really are. At some point, none of that satisfies anymore, and you long for the truth of who you really are. The truth of who you really are. The alcoholic is, when they're drinking the beer, what they're really trying to do is drink unconditional love. When we're smoking the cigarette, what we're trying to inhale unconditional love. When we're stuffing our face with hamburgers or chocolate, we are trying to ingest unconditional love. You see, we are seekers of unconditional love. That's kind of how we're built. And you might, for a few brief moments, you might have the taste of that. The cigarette, the chocolate, the sex might give you a taste of unconditional love prior to mind, prior to time, prior to past and future. But it doesn't last, you see. It doesn't last, and it's conditional, actually. It's conditional. So that's why the seeking mechanism can't provide the unconditional love that we seek. Because the unconditional love that we seek is actually who we already are, as this vast ocean of consciousness, which unconditionally allows, embraces, holds all of its waves, because it is all of its waves. It's inseparable. So it holds thoughts as they arise and dissolve, feelings as they arise and dissolve. You are already held. You're already unconditionally held by a love with no name. And some speak of God, some speak of awareness, some speak of consciousness, some speak of presence. And this is beyond words. It's prior to words. It's the words don't really matter. We can argue over the words. The words don't really matter. And I'm always reminded of Jesus on the cross. Such a beautiful metaphor, whether you believe it really happened or not. It's such a beautiful, beautiful symbol for this, a pointer. Because right in the midst of the broken bones, I mean, imagine being crucified. Think of what Jesus went through: the broken bones and the torn skin, and the ridicule, and the abuse, and the rejection he felt. The rejection by his friends, by everyone. And the ridicule, and so he's up there on the cross, broken. His body is broken, torn to shreds. He's been abused. He's been rejected. His loved ones are there, and he can't touch them. He can't touch them. And there's no hope. Not only that, but he's lost all hope. There's no hope of escape. He's nailed. He's nailed to the cross. He's nailed to the present moment. As we all are, actually. See, this is really about you. This is really about you. It was never about some guy who lived 2,000 years ago. It's about you. It's about you. We're nailed to the present moment with no hope of escape. So from one perspective, that's hell. That is hell. But of course, right in the midst of that experience, right in the midst of that brokenness, right in the midst of that, there was God. Right in the midst of that, there was something there that could not be crucified. There was something there that could not be broken. It couldn't be torn. The body can be torn, but who you truly are can't be torn, it can't be broken, it can't be crucified, it can't be killed. And that's what Jesus remembered. He remembered who he really was, even in the midst of that experience. Even in the midst of that experience, the intense human pain, despair, the loss of hope, the loss of dreams, the torture. Right in the midst of that, there was this remembering of who he really was, which transformed everything. And it's beautiful as well, because even Jesus on the cross, there was a moment where he didn't remember, he forgot, and he cries out. He says, "Father, why have you forsaken me?" In other words, I've forgotten who I truly am. I'm being torn apart. And I've forgotten who I really am. And then, of course, he remembers. It's accomplished. He remembers who he really is. So the device of his torture, this cross that broke him, the torture device actually becomes his salvation. But it's a shift in perception. It's a shift in perception. It's a remembering. He didn't escape the cross, but there was this deep acceptance, not as something that he was doing, but as that which was already there. In the midst of that experience, who he really was saying yes to it. Who he really was allowing it. Who he really was embracing it, holding it. He was held. He was held. And again, some people use the word God, some people use the word consciousness, some people use the word awareness, some people call it nothing, some people call it spirit. In the end, it's poetry, so it's metaphor, so find your favourite word for it. But even in the midst of our despair and our pain and our discomfort, who we truly are is always present, and who we truly are doesn't need to reach out for the next thing. Who we truly are doesn't need to reach out for the cigarette, or reach out for the drug, or reach out for the food, or reach out for the sex, or the success, or who we truly are is ever present and can't be broken.